Hi everyone, I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Pat Cavlin here with a look at the severe threat that we're going to be tracking for you all through the afternoon, into the overnight, and even into tomorrow morning. So a really long duration event setting up for us. And it's kind of complicated when it comes down to the timing. So we're really going to hone in on that. First, we're going to start with this graphic here. Just basically between now and 4 p.m., there's really not much in the way of a severe threat, just garden variety showers here. It is going to be breezy though at times. You know, we've got that wind out there. It's a south wind, and that is what has ushered in that huge change in the weather. More humidity, a lot of clouds, a really stark contrast from where we were yesterday, right, with the blue skies and the low humidity. That south wind is setting the stage for the severe threat that's coming in tonight, right? So we need that humidity, we need that tropical air mass in place to get these stronger storms. So that's what's going on right now. We're setting the stage for later on. I would say 4 o'clock, this is the time that we really need to keep an eye on. 4 o'clock and after, the threat is mainly going to be across our western counties. All right, so as you go, far west, west of Katy even, out towards I-35, so outside of our viewing area, from Austin down through San Antonio, that's where the storms start, and they're going to drift east. So anytime between 4 and 10 o'clock, we could start to see those storms get close to our western counties. And these are the storms that are really going to pack a punch in terms of destructive hail and also maybe even a few stronger tornadoes. That's round one. Round two comes in for everybody during the overnight hours. So that's after 10 o'clock right through the morning commute. So it's an overnight event primarily, and that makes us more dangerous, of course, because everyone's sleeping, and with it being dark, you won't be able to see anything. So you want to make sure that you have a way to get warnings through the overnight. Stay close to us here at KHOU 11. You can get the alerts on your phone, have a weather radio, have that turned on, make sure it's working, and make sure that your devices are charged through the overnight also, because this severe threat, as we get into tomorrow morning, we still have the tornado threat in play, but also a flooding threat, a pronounced flooding threat, mainly north of I-10 along along Interstate 45 and Highway 59. After 8 o'clock, things start to wind down very quickly from west to east. We see clearing skies, and eventually, again, everything starts to settle down. So let's take you outside right now. Things are looking pretty nice. You know, we're talking about temperatures that are much warmer. Obviously, we have a lot of fog and cloud coverage and rain as well. But rain has been coming down, and that rain, again, is part of that storm system. Okay, that southerly flow bringing in that warm, moist air, and that's going to be with us here as we go through the rest of the day. And the computer is not cooperating with me. Hold on. There we go. So all that green, all that shower activity, that's lifting in from the south. So that's that tropical air mass. That's setting the stage, again, for this severe potential as we get into the evening. So let's do a little bit of analysis here and talk about what's going on. It's this area up here, that big bowling ball of rain and clouds and even some snow on the colder side of it. That's the main core of the storm system. So if we draw it out for you, there's the center of the area of low pressure. That's the center of the storm. The warm front came through last night, right? So that's why we have that warm tropical air mass that's in place. That's setting the stage for what's going to happen later tonight. That's why we've got the clouds, the humidity in place right now. There's two factors that are going to be driving storm coverage as we go through the day today. The first one that everyone thinks about is a cold front, right? But that's still pretty far back off to the west. That's still across New Mexico. So that's not going to be the initial driver for the severe weather. The initial driver for the severe weather is actually going to be a dry line, and we've already started to see it develop here across West Texas. Notice storms starting to fire up just to the south and west of San Angelo. That dry line is what will lead to the initial development of thunderstorms along I-35 as we get into the afternoon hours. So remember, we talked about 2 rounds. First round starts around 4 o'clock along I-35, so not our area. That's where it starts, though, and it moves east towards our area. That's the dry line. Behind it, the cold front catches up to the dry line. Dry line falls apart. Cold front takes over and develops a line of thunderstorms through the overnight, and that kicks everything through as we get into the morning hours. So let's take you through it here. You can really see where that warm front has lifted. Temperatures surging into the 60s and 70s. Behind it, you've got that cold air. But again, the dividing line, there's that invisible dividing line, that dry line out here. We don't see a temperature difference, but it's a dew point difference. It's a difference in moisture. So a lot of moisture streaming in ahead of that. And you can feel it out there this morning. That's where we have the temperatures in the 70s. You'll actually get into the 80s and 90s down through South Texas later today. We're not going to get quite that hot here because of the cloud coverage. We'll make it into the mid-70s, but it's the humidity that's the driving factor for these storms. Behind it, you've got dry air, and then the cold air comes in on the back edge. All right, let's time it out for you here. Monday night, again, it's tonight through tomorrow morning, so 4 p.m. That's when the severe threat could start for the western counties. That goes all the way till 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. So again, an all-night long event for us here. And we've got everything on the table. Damaging wind gusts, few tornadoes, large hail, and the flooding threat. And I really want to emphasize the flooding threat. And that's going to be as we get into the overnight and tomorrow morning primarily. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, we're at a level 3. So right in the middle. All that orange shading here, that's where we have the potential, the highest potential to see more widespread severe weather. That threat will start to wane a little bit down by the coast, but you could still see a damaging wind gust, you could still see some hail, and you could see an isolated tornado. Within that orange, the Storm Prediction Center, who is in charge of making these outlooks, has actually highlighted an area that I'm doing with the blue hash marks here for significant severe weather, where we could see maybe a significant tornado, maybe a stronger tornado, maybe a longer track tornado. I think the biggest hail threat is going to be out in this area, just to our west. You know, we could get some big hailstorms here in southeast Texas, but I think the worst of the hail stays to our west. But the tornado threat encompasses this entire area, so it's really that orange highlight. So everyone, again, you had the possibility of seeing these stronger storms that could produce these tornadoes again through the overnight hours. So let's time it out. We've got the showers out there right now, just garden variety showers. That'll be continuing here through the afternoon, 1 o'clock, still just seeing these showers. What we've also got plotted on here is dew point. Remember, dew point just measures how much moisture is available in the atmosphere. The green indicates that really soupy air mass. The tan coloring indicates that bone dry desert air. And what a sharp dividing line between them. That's the dry line. And you can see just ahead of the dry line, along I-35 down through San Antonio, out through 37, that's where we get the storm initiation at dinner time. So 4, 5, 6 o'clock, these storms start to blow up. One thing to note about these storms, notice how instead of seeing a line all congealed together, you've got individual storms. Okay? These will likely be our supercell thunderstorms, our rotating thunderstorms. With these, we have the best threat for destructive hail and for strong, long-lived tornadoes. And again, this is just to our west. So this is sandwiched between our western counties and I-35. Take this with a grain of salt. Models give us an idea of what can happen, but they're not gospel. So one of these could drift into our western counties, and that's what we have to be really aware of as we get into the first part of the overnight. So that's round 1, and that's where we see the highest threat for tornadoes and for large destructive hail. That will last through about 10 and 11 o'clock tonight. Then you can see the worst of those storms start to move off towards our north and east. So those are pushing away from the area. Now we've got new development here just to the south. So this is just outside of the Beltway. Okay, that's where we start to see these storms developing. And then a secondary line out to the west. That's the cold front. So at this point, the dry line's gone. Now the cold front starts to take over, and we get into round 2. And this is where the flood threat comes into play. And the reason for that is because of how slow this line moves. So something called training is what we're really concerned about as we get into the late overnight hours and Tuesday morning. What is training? Training just occurs when heavy rain sits over an area for an extended period of time, and that, of course, could lead to flooding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this area. Okay? Keep an eye on the reflectivity, the radar image here, as we go forward in time. So this is 1:30 in the morning all the way to 4:30 in the morning. Notice how little that has moved in 3 hours. When you have rainfall rates of at least 2 to 3 inches an hour for 3 hours, you could easily get 6 inches of rain in a very short period of time, and that's where the flash flooding threat comes into play. And again, it's mainly for that highlighted area just to the west of downtown and then north as you go up 45 and 59. I think the 59 corridor is where we have the potential to see some pretty significant flooding if this actually happens, if this comes to fruition. And again, this is right before the morning commute. So 4 or 5 o'clock, you're waking up, you're getting ready to go to work, and all of a sudden, roadways are closed, your commute's impacted, we've got flooding on the roadways. That's something to think about. So that's going to be a really big player here. Now, we also have the potential for damaging winds because we've got that linear storm mode, right? When you get these storms that line up together, there's always the chance you get a damaging wind gust, and of course, the tornado threat's still in play. That will continue through sunrise. Once we get to 7:30 in the morning, the worst of it is now to the east of downtown, heading towards East Texas, the Louisiana border. Places like Katy, you're in the clear. Sugar Land, you're in the clear. Spring, the Woodlands, you're in the clear. As you go farther towards the north and west, by sunrise tomorrow, you're in the clear. But it's the areas out towards the east, Liberty, Cleveland, out towards Galveston even, you're still dealing with this. So this flooding threat will continue even after sunrise. It's not until the mid-morning hours, so 10 and 11 o'clock, that the rain's totally out of here, out towards Louisiana. And notice how the base color on this map changes from green to that tan. That's the lower humidity starting to come in behind that cold front. So again, this is how the severe threats break down from 4 o'clock this afternoon through tomorrow morning. Strong winds, we're pretty much smack dab in the middle in that orange category where we could see those gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour. The best chance for that overnight into tomorrow morning. The next threat that we're watching is going to be for hail. And the worst hail threat, I think, stays just to our west. But remember, if any of those storms from the west this afternoon can drift in our direction, we could see some golf ball size hail, so it could be destructive hail. Next is going to be flooding, and this is probably the most pronounced threat because it will affect the most people. And this, again, coming during the morning commute or just before the morning commute Tuesday, so we're actually in the purple category here. So we're getting close to the high end of our threat level in terms of this flooding chance. 2 to 4 inches on average, but again, we could exceed 4 inches if some of these thunderstorms sit over the same area for an extended period of time. And finally, last but definitely not least, the tornado threat on the same level as the hail threat, and some of these could be strong. And the best chance for that, again, will be late evening into the first part of tonight. We could see one tomorrow morning with that line, but the best chance will be with those isolated, those discrete supercells that form along I-35 and then push in our direction. And again, we could see a few of those trend towards the stronger side. All right, so let's talk about flooding. So that's the severe threat. We got that out of the way. On a scale of 1 to 4, we're to 3 for flooding potential. So it is a significant threat. Remember what I said. It's from areas like Katy as you go north and east. So along I-45, along 59, if these are roads that you live near, if these are routes to work, to downtown tomorrow, you really want to pay attention because this could cause some big issues. Even with that in mind, Houston, downtown, you're at a level 2 out of 4 for flooding risk. So it is a pronounced risk for us as these storms kind of move slowly over the same area. I know we haven't had a ton of rain lately, but it doesn't take much when you get these rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour to cause some issues. So that's what we're going to be on the lookout for as we get into tomorrow morning. Rainfall potential, we don't have that. I guess we don't have this set. The start time on this, again, it's the same idea as what we showed in this map here. 2 to 4 inches with the highest threat being up here. We could see that 2 to 4 inch range, possibly even higher. And that could even extend farther south as well. It just depends on exactly where these set up, but the model's been very consistent in keeping it just to the north of town. All right, so coming up at noon on TV, Chief Meteorologist David Paul, he's in early today. It's all hands on deck. We're doing team weather in all of our shows as we go through the afternoon. Again, you want to stay close to us here. This is going to be the place to be through the afternoon, through the evening, into the overnight. We're going to be here in studio and out on the road. You want to make sure you have the KHOU 11 app as well to get those severe weather alerts, and make sure that your devices are charged going into the overnight. Make sure that your weather radios are up and working. And we will have more on this threat, the latest information all coming up on KHOU 11 News at noon, and we'll see you then.